Alright, now we're going to proceed to the next step, which is installing the processor. This is a very important step and something you want to be super careful with. The processor is usually the most expensive part of a computer. Not all the time, but most of the time it is. And we want to make sure that you install it correctly so that you don't damage the processor during the install and so that it obviously works. So let's go ahead and show you a few things here. As you can see, there's a grate over the top of it. Go ahead and lift it up. This is actually what's going to secure the processor down. And on this motherboard, there's a plastic cover currently where the processor is going to go that you can see there. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. And you want to make sure not to touch any of those pieces down there. One thing I do want to show you really quickly to make sure you get the processor lined up is there is a triangle, a big triangle on one of these corners. As you can see, it is on this corner. See that little indentation in the metal there? That's what we want to make sure we line up with the corner on our processor to make sure it goes in straight. You never want to try to put a processor in incorrectly. It shouldn't actually drop in if it's in the wrong position, but we want to make sure that it never is. So I'll go ahead and show you. I got my processor here. I've already applied a little bit of thermal paste to it. You can see. You see down here in this, in the corner here, that's the triangle that's going to match up with that bigger triangle. We want to make sure those are in the exact same places. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it so it matches up. So there's my corner here on the processor. There's my corner here on this metal piece. So I'm going to go ahead and lift this back up. This is the way this is going to go down. And it should drop in very nicely. You shouldn't have to push it. It should drop in perfectly without any more work from you. Again, as you can see, I've already applied some thermal paste. Some processors come with a heatsink that has a thermal paste pre-applied. Others don't. If you do happen to have to apply your own thermal paste, you want to make sure that you don't put too much on, but that you put enough on. You don't want it to leak over the edges because it can cause damage to the processor over time. So now that I've got that in there, I'm going to go ahead and put this down. And as you can see, there's a little screw here in the front. This clasp thing needs to go down before it so that it can go under this screw. And then there's this little metal lever that I'm going to be pushing down. You see that here? And it's going to have some pressure to it when you press it down, so don't be afraid. As long as you got that processor installed correctly, this isn't going to damage anything. It's just going to make sure that the processor doesn't move and that it's very snug. So I'm going to go ahead and push this down. And there's a little, I don't know if you can see here, a little lip here that I want to put this end under, and it'll lock right into place. So as you can see, we've got the cage down to lock the processor in place, and it's securely fastened.